Is this the best ultra-wide-angle lens for Sony APS-C cameras? Hey, how's it going? My name is Jussi and this channel is all about filmmaking, tips, tutorials and camera gear. And on this video, I'm gonna help you to make an educated decision whether or not this is the best ultra-wide-angle lens for your Sony APS-C camera. If you're interested in this lens, I'll link it in the description below when the link is available. Now, real quick, this is a prototype provided by Focus Nordic, not the actual production model. So I want to say a huge thank you for Focus Nordic for letting me borrow this lens for this review. This is probably the closest APS-C lens to the 16-35 F2.8 G Master Sony lens for full-frame Sony cameras. At its widest, at 11mm, it's the full-frame equivalent of 16.5mm, and at its tightest focal length, at 20mm, it's the full-frame equivalent of 30mm. So it is indeed very close to the 16-35 full-frame lens. This is great news for filmmakers like me who are considering switching to full frame but are on a budget but still want to get as close as possible to that full frame look. I really love it that there's finally an ultra wide angle lens for Sony APS-C cameras that has a fast aperture of f2.8, which gives you this nice shallow depth of field, that nice background blur, which makes it look more cinematic and which helps you to separate the subject from the background. At 11mm, this lens is also great for vlogging. This is the vlogging test with the Sony 10-18mm f4 lens with the focal length set at 11mm and the aperture set at f4. This is the vlogging test with the Tamron with the focal length set at 11mm and the aperture set at f2.8. Even though the lens is just a prototype, I didn't notice any problems with the autofocus whatsoever. It was always very fast and very accurate and very snappy, which is really good. I also did a comparison with the Tamron lens at 11mm f2.8 compared to its closest competitor, the Sony 10-18mm f4 lens, and I noticed that there is indeed a very noticeable difference in the background blur, that shallow depth of field. I love it that the lens is really compact and small, and it's only 86.2mm in length, and it weighs only 335 grams, which is pretty good even for an APS-C lens with an f2.8 fast aperture. I also love it that the lens has a filter thread of 67mm like almost all of Tamron's lenses, because my ND filters are 67mm. So my goal is to have all of my lenses with the filter thread of 67mm. Actually, I noticed that this lens is also great for photography, believe it or not. For example, at 11mm, it's great for architecture photography or landscape photography, but when you put it to 20mm, which is the 30mm equivalent on full frame, it's a great street photography lens as well. Even though this is not a scientific review, in my opinion, This lens has a great edge-to-edge sharpness, and it doesn't have any kind of weird vignetting or color shifting, even with an ND filter. So that makes me really happy. Now, this is very interesting. The minimum focusing distance with the focal length of 11mm is only 15 centimeters, and with the focal length of 20mm, the minimum focusing distance is only 24 centimeters, which is pretty amazing. Also, some of you might like the fact that this lens has a moisture-resistant construction, but for me, it's not an important feature because I never film in rain. My apologies, I'm gonna have to check my notes from my phone because it's getting pretty late and I wanna get this video done before my wife gets back home. So, my final thoughts. So let's start with the pros. First of all, I really love it that it's a very compact ultra-wide angle lens that's very lightweight, and it's got an awesome bokeh, that cinematic looking nice background blur, and a stunning image quality. And also, I love it that it's got a very close minimum focusing distance. But the cons, I really wish that it had a little bit more reach, like 25mm or something like that. And I also wish that this lens had some kind of stabilization built in. But those are not deal breakers for me. I still think that this lens is the best ultra-wide angle lens for any Sony APS-C camera. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, I highly recommend that you watch either one of these videos somewhere here on the screen, because I think you're gonna enjoy it as well. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.